I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'll start any disclosures of pecuniary interest. One, thank you. You've dealt with it and so on?
Paperwork, it's agenda item 11.3B, and it's to my employment.
Okay, thank you very much. So noted. We're good. All right, I need a mover and a seconder to move into closed session.
Josh has got a,
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up. Sorry. Yes, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I am pleased to be here this evening to administer the oath of office to Leslie Roseblade. So without further ado, I will just have you repeat after me. I, Leslie Roseblade,
I, Leslie Roseblade,
having been appointed to the office of Councillor Ward 1
having been elected or appointed, appointed to the office of Councillor Ward 1
in the municipality of the Corporation of the City of Quinte West,
in the municipality of the Corporation of the City of Quinte West,
do solemnly promise and declare
do solemnly promise and declare
that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability.
I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability.
I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner.
I have not received or will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner.
I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act.
I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act.
And I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III.
I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III.
And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
And I make the solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Great. Welcome to City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and just want you to know your first pay comes to all of us. And I'm just kidding. I'm making fun of Josh and what he, anyways. Thank you very much, and congratulations. Yes, the only guy that gives us money is the guy over there in the blue suit, and every time I ask him, his answer is the same. He doesn't have any. So, and that's the way it should be. So thank you very much. Okay, need a mover and a seconder to go into close. Councillor McHugh moves, seconded by Councillor Roseblade. All in favor? Thank you very much. We shouldn't be too long, but we will be a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
Call the meeting to order, and I ask you to stand for the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement, National Anthem, and then we will be able to sit down. Thank you.
We begin this meeting by acknowledging that Quinte West is on Indigenous land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. We thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Long before today, there have been Indigenous peoples who have been the stewards of this place. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte First Nation. This territory is covered by numerous treaties. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We also recognize the contribution of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples have made, both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, and our province and country as a whole. This acknowledgement serves as recognition of the contributions and historical significance of Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island and demonstrates our collective commitment to meet the promises and address the challenges of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission within our community.
Thank you very much for being here this evening, and we're talking about everything from you name it to whatever. And if there's anybody that has extra funds, we'd be glad to help you out and relieve you any way we can. But just in case you're thinking Christmas is coming, and there are many people who are struggling, and if you have the ability to help other people, do your best. I'm sure you will. And you know, this year in particular, I want to acknowledge the individuals who have decorated our city hall and spent time decorating the streets, Front Street in particular, and around throughout the city. I've had a number of people acknowledge the creativity and the fact that it looks great and adds to the decor and the beauty of our city. So I thank so many people for what you've done, and yes, just keep doing it. So, and Santa Claus has been to Frankfurt, and he's also been, or she, or whatever, also been to Trenton. So I thank again for, yeah, we had a great crowds, and it was, the one in Trenton was cold. It was a cold, windy night. I'm not saying Frankfurt wasn't, but it didn't seem to be as cold there when I was there. So, but again, thank you very much for being there, and it's all about young children. It's not about old guys. It's about young children, and it's great to see so many of them out there with their families and enjoying the parade and enjoying what's happening. So I thank all the people here who spent time to be there and to be a part of it, as well as staff members and those businesses who also went that extra mile to put a float in and make sure they had the insurance that they needed to cover all the people involved in their floats. And of course, we talk about thanking Indigenous people, which is great. I also want to take time to thank farmers, because it's been a tough year for the farming industry in our particular area, because we haven't had the rain, and without water, without Mother Nature helping us in terms of rain, it's a very difficult, dismal business to be in. The only thing I can tell you right now, the corn, the wheat was good, the wheat was decent, yes it was, but again, you got to remember we had wheat planted last year or last fall, and we had early rains, and that helped the wheat crop tremendously. But the soybeans and corn were what you'd say, there was a little bit, but not much, not much. So, but I can tell you that if you eat meat and beef in particular, don't expect it to get cheaper, because it's not going to get cheaper. It isn't going to happen, because right now there are so many different parts of the world that are what you'd say, jeopardizing the beef industry. That the meat that you get here, make sure, check where it comes from, and you'll know what's going on. So other than that, it's a great, we live in the best part of the world. Yes, we do. I was in Toronto this week for a meeting with ministers and Ford government, talking about our needs in Eastern Ontario, and yes, when you get there and you have the chance to talk about what we need, but you also have the chance to listen and hear what other places need. And I thank God in particular, because I do believe, and we're truly blessed in this area for what we have to deal with. So, thank you. Anything from anyone else? Anyone else? Councillor Reid.
Thank you very much. First of all, a very big thank you to all the volunteers that helped with Frankfurt Santa Claus Parade and Frankfurt Christmas Fantasy. It was a fabulous day. We did have really nice weather. Unfortunately, Trenton didn't have quite as nice a weather, but it didn't dampen anybody's spirits in Trenton either. So thanks to all the volunteers. Secondly, December 6th is going to be a busy day. First of all, in the morning from 9 until 1 at Frankfurt Foodland, the Frankfurt Lions Club will be trying to fill their boat to help with their Christmas sharing program. So drop by Frankfurt Foodland's parking lot. Maybe you can make a donation of some food or money if you'd like. Then that evening, the Holly Trolley is traveling between Trenton and Frankfurt from 5 until 9. It will be a wonderful event. Free trolley rides to both light displays in Trenton and Frankfurt, with extra stops this year at the arenas in Frankfurt and Trenton, so that you can go shopping in Trenton, you can go free skating in Frankfurt from 5:30 until 8 o'clock. There's reindeer in Frankfurt Tourist Park, so it's another great day for Quinte West residents, and it's all free.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This weekend, starting Friday night, the Trenton Rotary Club's having a festival of trees at the Trentport Marina, and if it's anything like last year, it will be great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted this evening to acknowledge that today is International Day of Disability, and Quinte West had their award ceremony today for agencies and individuals that contribute to make our community even more accessible. And so if I could, Mr. Mayor, I want to note who the winners were this morning. Doug Jackson. He won as the community member for all of his work for many, many years, providing accessibility programs and services. Many of you know Mr. Jackson for his work with the Quinte Transit. The second winner was in the community organization, Quinte Transit. Shelley was there to receive the award this morning, and we all know the benefit of Quinte Transit for our connectivity to our community, our schools, and our businesses. And the third one was Watts Accessibility Consulting, who won the business category. So it was a wonderful morning, and Quinte West Council acknowledges all of these winners. And I do want to note there were other nominees, including Duncan Armstrong and Arlene Tenuous, and we thank all the nominees, and again, we'll be doing the awards next year, so keep in mind if you're aware of anyone that helps improve our community, we'd love to have them. And thanks to Louise Smith.
And we're coming up to the festive season, and we don't have our inspector here tonight, but she may be here before it's over. And whether you know it or not, but what's happening is the impaired driving charges are going up, and they shouldn't be. So I want to acknowledge the program that some of us take part in. It's called the Red Nose Program. And that's where if you're out and you're celebrating and you need a ride home, call Red Nose. And somebody will come, pick you up, pick up your friends, take you home, and also drive your vehicle home. So when you get up in the morning, everything is where it should be, including you. So that's the Red Nose Program. And any revenue that's, I shouldn't say any revenue, but a part of the revenue that is generated to the Red Nose goes to to help our YMCA. So it's all good, and it's a really reliable way of getting home. Yes, I worked with Councillor Elliott and Chief Whalen, and I'm usually in the car behind those two guys, and that's not always the best place to be, because when you go through a ride check, I may have told you this before, they tell the police officers, make sure you check that car behind us. Yeah. And I'll tell you, that's not the thing to tell the police officer, because they do check that car behind them. And, yes, Councillor Neal.
Just to clarify, it's a free service. They just take donations. So, and you'll get your car back to where you are, but it's a free service only by donation.
That's right. It's only by donations, but most people are very thankful and appreciative and make donations. And over the years, I don't know what we've achieved, but whatever it is, it goes in an envelope and it's passed in to the right and appropriate people. So, again, thank you very much, and thanks to all the people. Anybody else taking part in it this year that hasn't? Councillor Card, good for you. Who? Pardon?
And Councillor O'Neill and
too?
CAO Angelo, yeah, we're gonna be a team, I believe, so.
Oh, good. So you got O'Neill and Angelo and Card. Hey, great, that's good. And is there any safe driver there? Yeah, they're all good drivers, right? Councillor McHugh.
Yeah, the good Reverend Conrick and myself are looking for a third person. If anybody's interested, we'd like to, we've done it in the past before, but we lack a third right now. So if anybody out there is interested, let us know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's great. And again, the purpose is to support. We're not against people having a good time. We're not against people having an enjoyable season out, but we want to make sure everybody gets home safely. That's all we're doing. And I appreciate that opportunity very, very much. So, again, okay, anything else? Well, I think I've covered everything. I think I have. I gotta ask again, any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Councillor Stedall.
As indicated earlier, it's with item 11.3B due to my employment.
Thank you. Thank you. So noted. Okay, minutes of the, approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting. Minutes of the regular council meeting held on November 19th, 2025 be approved. And I need a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Reid and Councillor Sharp, and then I'll just read the rest of it, okay? And further, that the minutes of the closed session council meeting held on November 19th, 25 be approved. So, any comments or questions from anyone? All in favor? Thank you very much.
Approve the agenda.
Oh, sorry, approval of the agenda too. I need approval of the agenda. Yeah, moving a seconder for approval of Councillor Stedall, Councillor McHugh. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, now I'm at, I have the Executive Director, Sheila Braddock of the Belleville Quinte West Community Health Center, and Ed Gannon, Executive Director of Lakeview Family Health Team, and Karen Clayton-Babb, Chief Nurse Practitioner of Belleville Nurse Practitioner-led clinic on behalf of Hastings Prince Edward and Ontario Health Team, will address us and explain to us very clearly what's happening. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Mr.
Merry
Mayor.
Christmas. Glad to see you.
Council, pleasure to see you as well. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, Sheila Bradick and Ed Gannon and our colleague Karen Clayton-Babb and Krista Ann Lewis with the
Good. Thank you.
Backbone team. So, thank you for this opportunity. We've actually been keen to come and present to council, so we've been waiting for an opportunity to do that. The Hastings Prince Edward Ontario Health Team, very briefly, is a voluntary collaboration of health service providers and social care organizations in the HPE OHT, so all of our communities. And our mandate or our mission is caring for communities together, partnering for better health and wellness within and across our communities. Well, that's how you drive it. Wow.
I think so. Let's try one more. There we go.
Great. Under the auspices of the HPE OHT is the Primary Care Network, and that's a subgroup of family physicians, nurse practitioners, and organizations such as the CHC and the family health teams, excuse me, that are committed to ensuring that everybody who wants care in Hastings Prince Edward has access to timely and appropriate primary health care. So the HPE writ large, looking at health care and social care very broadly, the Primary Care Network more focused on, obviously, primary health care.
So I'll just take over after the didactic portion. So we have some shared priorities, as you can imagine. So the priorities for yourselves is to try and make sure the community gets the health care that it needs. And to help us do that, we need your help to help us develop, a primary care healthcare strategy. And to do that, we will be focusing a lot on obviously physician recruitment or NP recruitment, provider recruitment in order to help us do that for our community and at large. They are the only folks that really can provide the care at the moment, so those are the folks we have to focus on. So our current stats, kind of where we are in Quinte West. So you can see here that we figured that there's about 6,685 people, I'm not going to call them patients, but residents that need primary care provider right now based on our statistics up to March 31st. That's about 15% of your population, and that is higher than the provincial average. And right now, from the sources that we have, the Healthcare Connects list for this region has 1,400 and some people on the list right now. And as you're all aware, the government has put a lot of money prioritizing with Dr. Philpott the provincial challenge. It's a national challenge that we're all trying to attract providers and provide primary care for across the regions. Currently, we've done some number crunching on our side, and we figured there's been about 1,000 patients attached in Quinte West since April up to October 31st. So that's not to any one particular organization, that's across the region. So that gives you an idea of what we've been trying to do. It's a decentralized strategy at the moment. And what can we do to increase primary care capacity? So really, we really need more primary care physicians and nurse practitioners, and help us work on the strategies and deliver on a strategy for primary care at this point in time.
Thanks. So, as you're aware, the province did release an invitation for proposals for primary care expansion. They were very clear on what they were looking for, and they set those parameters right at the beginning. They identified forward sortation areas where they had the highest number of people on the Healthcare Connect wait list. And we know that the Healthcare Connect wait list is not a good indication of how many people in a community are in need of primary care, but it is a measurable indicator of how many people in a community need primary care, and it is politically expedient. So that was the measure that they identified at the province, and certainly KOK, KOL, and K8N in our region were identified as priority neighborhoods. Quinte West was not identified as a priority neighborhood. We know that so that was the case, but we were also aware on the ground that, there was a need within Quinte West. We developed a proposal and were awarded a total of $4.5 million for the expansion of primary health care in HPE OHT. And that was for the entirety of the area. It was focused on those 3 forward sortation areas. So for example, in KOK, we included Brighton as an area of focus, and we know that there's some folks that in the Brighton area are coming into Quinte West, or folks in Quinte West that might be going to Brighton to access care. And folks do travel to access their care. So there are folks that are in the Quinte West area who will benefit from that expansion, but it's not targeted to the Quinte West area. And we know that's a point of concern and frustration. That funding was announced very rapidly after it was, like the day after it was announced that we got the letter. And it's taken a number of months, actually, a number of weeks to get the actual approvals to proceed, which only came through on November 21st. So all this time, we've been waiting for those final approvals to proceed, and some of our ability to move forward has been limited by waiting on those final approvals, as we're not able to, undertake certain things without having that in writing. Currently, we're in the process of setting up those expansions in Bancroft, Sterling, Gilmore, Tweed, Belleville, Prince Edward County, and Brighton. And those that have staff available to them are able to expand those staff. That's already happened. So for example, Bancroft, they've been able to move forward really quickly, whereas in Belleville, we are more challenged because we actually have to build a space where they can work out of before we can even hire the staff. So it's a challenging dynamic. For many of us, identifying and securing the staff, the nurse practitioners and the primary care physicians, is a challenge, right? And given that there's been an investment across the province in primary health care expansion, and everybody is running around trying to hire a bunch of new docs and nurse practitioners, it is continuing to be a provincial challenge. So this is where, collaborating with the local recruitment folks, with the municipality and across the different organizations and different municipalities as well is really important. So your investment in physician recruitment or primary care provider recruitment is very much welcome and very much needed. And we're sort of at that point of being able to, we've got some investment in primary care expansion, and now we need to be able to turn up the recruitment as well. So we're looking forward to that collaboration continuing. Round 2, here comes the test. The province had just announced round 2 of funding for the 26-27 fiscal year. A proposal was submitted, 2 proposals actually were submitted from our area. They took away the forward sortation area focus. So we submitted 2 proposals. One was to add to the next chunk, if you will, the next tranche of investment in the first round, from the first round. We had actually asked initially for a significant investment and got the 4.5 million, which is not a small investment. And now we're looking for an additional 2.7, and that's to engage with some of the expand some of the existing team-based care, to engage some of the non-team-based engaged providers, and to improve some of the efficiency and support providers, improving some of the efficiencies in their offices so that, they may feel that their practice is full right now, but if we can help, make things a little more efficient, then they might be able to take on a few more patients. The second proposal is focused on supporting military families. So this is really dominantly looking at the Quinte West area, looking to attach 4,500 people to primary health care, predominantly those military families in the area. It's a 1.69 investment that we're seeking there. $1.69 million investment that we're seeking there. So we do not know when we're going to hear about those two requests. The ministry is going to take the time the ministry is going to take to do that. We do know that they want to see that funding rolling out for 26, 27, so hopefully that they'll be moving on more quickly to roll that out. After that, so where we're at then, continued implementation of round one, and as I mentioned, key challenge is around recruiting providers. Continued new patient attachment. So we know that without this additional investment, there was already 1,000 folks that were attached to primary care, and that's something that we do on an ongoing basis within existing practices. There's always attrition, and we're always taking in new people. I can speak for the CHC. We've had the pleasure of stabilizing our staffing somewhat over the last year and a half, and so we're seeing a significant ramp up of our onboarding as well. We're also going to continue to explore ways as a sector to make improvements in primary health care, right? We know that, or I believe, that we're not going to be able to hire and doc and nurse our way out of this, right? I think we are going to have to be looking at more creative ways of doing the work that we're doing, supporting practices in different ways, and working more collaboratively as a sector. And then not only within our own sector, but across with mental health and addictions, for example, community support services, and then with the acute sector. So we're excited about those possibilities, and we are engaged in those conversations. They do take a long time, right? We're trying to shift some pretty entrenched systems in doing things a little bit differently. But I'm pleased with, I think, the work that we've been doing and the progress that we've actually been making. Waiting for approval on round two. We do expect a round three invitation from the primary care action team in 27-20 or probably around September for the 27-28 fiscal year. And again, we will be looking to seek some additional funds at that point as well. I'm sure you have questions, so I'm going to leave it at that.
I'll ask a question. How are you doing with your facility and what you're involved in?
Really well. So we're at the Quinte West CHC, at the Quinte West site of the CHC. We are in process now of trying to fit out the lower level. We've been jumping through the various hoops with the Ministry of Health. Feels like we're going to jump through a big hoop before the end of Christmas and optimistically go to tender in January. So that'll be an exciting milestone for us. And if that's the case, we will be fully finished construction and have friends moving in the late fall.
So just to give everybody an explanation, your building was built how many years ago now?
Building was built originally approved for funding in 2013, finally built in 2021. December, actually, anniversary was today.
Good.
We moved in.
Good. Okay, great.
4 years ago today.
We're glad you're moving forward.
Yeah,
Council.
and so now the lower level wasn't finished, and we're going to be finishing that. And CMHA, the VON Adult Day Program, and Public Health will be moving in there.
Great, great. Councilor McHugh, you got a
Thank
question?
you. Yeah, Sheila, I just want to confirm, most of the funding that you've been getting, or all the funding has been provincial?
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm curious to see, your slide clearly indicated where 16% of our population don't have primary care.
Correct?
4,475 of those are military families. We love having them here.
Yep.
I think the federal government should be stepping up and saying, you have a municipality where we're sending thousands of our armed forces personnel. Maybe we should be throwing a little bit of money behind them to help ease the pain that they're overloading our doctor recruitment, our physician, our hospitals by sending here. I mean, we want them here, but it might be nice. Has anybody reached out to the federal government on this level? Or all I've ever heard is provincial funding, because the hospital's provincially owned and run. maybe it's time we reached out to federals.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The federal government is responsible for healthcare for enlisted personnel. The families aren't enlisted, they are Canadian citizens and as such entitled, like all of us, to access healthcare through the variety of local resources that are available. So I appreciate that it's a significant pressure on the local infrastructure. I think I believe that the MFRC has had conversations with the feds about how to offset that. I know that the MFRC has secured some funds to provide some social supports and that sort of thing. But the responsibility for the delivery of primary healthcare to Canadians is a provincial responsibility.
Councillor Stendhal?
Thank you, Worship. So you indicated in your presentation that there was a gap in the postal codes, which has to do with the Quinte West, and so the money in round one has gone to other postal areas. Round two, it wasn't clear to me. Is the round two going to those same postal code areas, or is it going to the rest of the area? And I just wondered about, because we've got, it sounds like we've got 13%.
Yeah, the postal code requirement was taken out in the round two, so hopefully that won't exist in future rounds. I think they've seen the impacts of that, so.
So you indicated that we would be getting, that the round two was for enhanced funding to practitioners that we already have here. Would that be more specific? Would there be more in Quinte West that would be getting that, or is it to these other practitioners in the other areas? I'm just thinking, like, we kind of got missed in the first round. Well, we got missed completely. So it would be nice if the second round, if there was more application.
So yes, the postal codes were excluded in the first round. So, but this doesn't mean that we haven't, because our organizations cross these boundaries, that we haven't been trying to deal with that internally. You know, where we have physician capacity to take on or nurse practitioner capacity to take on patients, we're doing so regardless of the postal code.
Okay, that helps. Thank you very much.
Councillor O'Neill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, we actually met with our federal MP here and voiced our concerns that the military members' families had a shortage, and we asked our local MP to step up to the plate to provide some funding for our area.
Great.
So we're working on that.
Yes, and what was his response?
He promised he'd talk to the Minister of National Defense, and I'm
So,
hoping
which
that's
is
soon.
good. Yes, thank you. Coming this way, Councillor Card.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you both for coming, Ed and Sheila for coming. Just have some maybe extended comments here. And I first want to just acknowledge, thank you for coming, and Councillor Sharp at the motion initially that invited you. Councillor Sharp gave some input there I wanted to acknowledge, and I think based on Councillor Carr and Belleville inviting you as well. So I guess I have several questions, and I certainly appreciate all of the input. I don't want anyone to misunderstand or think there's kind of an oppositional dynamic, because I know that a lot of these rule sets and the program that you weren't making the decisions about which area codes would be prioritized or the metrics that were going to be prioritized. But sitting on this side of the gallery, it has been extremely frustrating. I know that when the funding was initially announced, that there was great fanfare and I think in the community a sense of hope. And I think that when we get to the specifics, which I also appreciate, we'll give you great credit for, previously on the committee having to rely on the Healthcare Connect rules, that data set was very flawed, as you pointed out. And so having the Ontario Health Team, HPE Ontario Health Team number is extremely valuable now. We can create a data set over time and actually see what is happening, because we've been flying in the dark, essentially, you could argue. And anyway, with that great fanfare, and I know certainly on council there was some, positive feelings initially, and then to see the specifics on the first round of funding that our postal code was not prioritized, and then and the second one, it is certainly positive with the military families. course, not all those will be in Quinte West, and this is the ask. Could you just, and I have more to go through, but just based on the first round of funding, the ask versus the grant, do you have any sort of guidance if we presume that it will be similar as a percentage? Can you speak to, was a third of the ask 50%, 100%? Like what was granted versus the ask for first round? Can you speak to that a little bit in a percentage?
Can't do math in my head that fast.
It's a fifth.
It was a fifth? Yes.
About a fifth, okay. So I just, again, to temper expectations, if the goal is attaching 4,400 and a fifth, that's about 900, if we, again, to temper expectations. And I thought it was really important to invite you here, again, not in any sort of oppositional way, but I think that the public needs to be aware, like, now that we have your data set, 16%, nearly 16% of Quinte West residents, 1 in 6 lacking primary care. And I think that's really important for the public to know that this program is not necessarily going to have a lot of impact here, at least in the first 2 rounds for the general public in Quinte West. And I think that's important not only for this council as we go into the budget process for physician recruitment, a program that I personally think we need to certainly prioritize, because I don't think a solution is necessarily coming immediately through here, although I concede and agree with certainly doing good work and trying to find solutions. We're on the same team. But also tempering public expectations as to what this is going to accomplish immediately in the short term, because I think that we still need to hold higher levels of government accountable. When we see these announcements, I think that it becomes like, some people, and you told me on the pre-call, this isn't a panacea, and that's certainly important, I think, for everyone to know that this isn't a panacea. We still have to be very aggressive and bold in physician recruitment. And yeah, those were most of my comments. Can you talk about, I guess, the need for physician recruitment and what you see from where you, 2 unique positions at the family health team and then at the community health center? What do you see from your point of view as the best role for the municipality to, at this point in time, to support our kind of, because I know we have some similar interests, but they're different a little bit in terms of we're worrying about Quinte West residents specifically, and you're worried about maybe the larger region, cross communities. What can the municipality do at this point in time, you think, to best support our shared goals where they align?
Do you want to start?
So besides just trying to find us, providers, and we're doing our best to try and find providers as well. It's not all on you. That is the primary thing we need to attach more folks right now. Then we'd run into probably space constraints from me speaking from the family health team and from the physicians who work in our practice, we get into the terminology here, the FO, the physician organization. We will run out of space very quickly with where we are practicing in the city, inside of Quinte West. So that is our biggest challenge as an organization right now. Sheila's got different challenges, but those are mine.
Thanks. I appreciate your comments, Councillor Card. I think it is important to note that, this funding was great fanfare, right? Very exciting, big investment. Yeah, it's not gonna solve the issues, right? It is a step in the right direction. And so now we've got the money, and now the next step is being able to implement that, and we're working very hard toward that end. And your assistance in that, moving that forward, particularly around physician recruiting, helping people understand what's going on, tempering expectations, holding provincial and other levels of government to account. Those are all really important pieces, I think, that council can play. I think the other piece is that because there is often a alignment of interests or a crossover or sharing of interests, that we communicate, right? I think we've worked really hard over the last several years to get primary care organizations talking with each other more regularly in a more robust way, and healthcare organizations, and now, right, broadening that circle to include municipalities as well. And I think it's important so that we're not running at cross purposes, but there's awareness of what each is doing and being able to identify and seek out those opportunities for synergies where they exist. So, you know, I think those sorts of things are all part of the puzzle here.
Councillor Elliott.
Yes, thank you again for your presentation. I noted in your step one there that you said that certain postal codes were recognized and were covered, I guess, in a sense. Quinte West wasn't excluded. KOK is down where I live, and it represents everything, Pros Land Acres, Dead Creek, everything south of the canal, and it even goes up into Brighton at Stony Point area. But certainly Carrying Place Post Office serves southwestern of Prince Edward County. So there is a certain section, I guess, of, in all reality, of Quinte West people, I guess, did get recognized in a sense, because Carrying Place Post Office is KOK1LO, and that covers that area there. So we didn't get totally excluded, but it was a small sliver, I'll put it that way, just for correction. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Sheila Braddock and your team for coming. This was very helpful and informative. I just wanted to also comment with the data, with Healthcare Connect, the records indicate with Healthcare Connect, only 1,431 residents have indicated they need a doctor, but your data is 6,685. And we can't get a doctor individually unless you're on Healthcare Connect. So how can we encourage that or market that, or is that a concern that you're recognizing individuals who aren't even, they're just not on the Quinte Healthcare list that the government says individuals have to be on before they get a doctor, aside from going to the hospital?
Yeah. Just to clarify, you can get a physician or a primary care provider if you're not on Healthcare Connect, right? You're not prohibited, right? It's an avenue. It's the recognized central referral point. Right. But if you knock on somebody's door and they say, yeah, that's all good, right? We know that I think what the province is trying to do is well, the list has been sitting there, right? More or less efficient and effective, right? Now they're trying to clear it off and activate it as a more dynamic resource in our community. Great. The OHT is talking with Healthcare Connect about, okay, great, how are you going to advertise that tool, right? So that's an ongoing conversation, and I think if the city wants to reach out to Healthcare Connect and say, okay, great, send us some posters.
Right.
I think that would be a dandy idea.
Okay. Yeah. And just supplementary, are you or your organizations collectively providing any incentives for physician or nurse practitioner recruitment now?
We are prohibited from doing that.
Okay, so you don't have any program or opportunity for that. I also wanted to comment on what's already been said by Councillor Carter and Councillor O'Neill. When we did have the meeting with MP Millett with regard to the military piece and the federal federal potential funds, and we do know, as you indicated, that they really will only fund doctors or primary care for enlisted military, but not the families. And we're looking at new models together, and we're here having this conversation, which is great. But I really think that we should really encourage that avenue. If there's any, we are trying, and if you could assist in that in any way, because there was a lot of reception, a different pool of money, never know, yep. But that is a high number of individuals without a doctor, 4,000 plus. So if the province isn't stepping up there, which they need to be throughout our community, then we may be able to angle that military federal component. Yeah. So just wanted to add to the meetings that the members already had. It was very positive. That's all I want to say.
I think that's great. And if if it makes sense for us to liaise with the CEO Angelo as that avenue for an ongoing dialogue about what are you doing, very happy to do that.
And we've never, ever excluded anybody through our process. No. We have tried to encourage all family doctors to take patients and acknowledge that they're patients. That's it.
Yep.
And so we will continue to do that. I'm going to ask CO Angelo to just take a minute and introduce our new doctor recruiter at this time, and if you can tell a little bit about her. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. It's my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Jessica Smiley, just sitting beside our fire chief. And if Jessica just wants us to come up and say a couple words to council, I think she'd be more than pleased to do that. You know,
right from there, too. You don't have to.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited for the opportunity to be serving the City of Quinte West in this capacity. Thank you very much, Sheila and Ed, for coming this evening. I think our future collaboration is going to be very successful, and I look forward to working with all the councillors around the Horseshoe in the new year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica, for being here and going through the process and meeting with other members like CO Angelo and convincing him that you're the best for the job. So thank you very much. And I have to give him credit because I think he knows what he's doing. Councillor Boyce.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for some clarification, and I know Councillor Allier had mentioned about, I think it was KOK. So in the first round, I live in an area of Sydney where predominantly it's K8N, and the address is K8N, the postal code. And my understanding was they were allowed to apply for in the first round. Is the second round that they be excluded from applying then, or
No.
they could still apply?
Yep.
Okay.
There was no postal code restriction on the second round of funding.
Okay.
Okay, any more this way, and then I'll go. Okay, Councillor Rogers.
While you're talking to the feds, you should remind them that the military is having a hard time recruiting, so maybe that could be part of the carrot to help their spouses out, and then that would take a load off of our existing list.
Thank you. You're right, they are having a difficult time. Yes, they are. But that's, and we're fortunate here because of, the fact that we are a military city, and we're proud of the military here. Yes, we are. Very proud. Thank you. Okay, any other council members? Anybody else? Otherwise, thank you very much for the work you're doing and the work you're going to be doing, and you know the people here to contact and work with and get a hold of, and
Yep,
so you're
we can do
you're
that.
already 3 or 4 steps ahead. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have the council of the City of Quinte West will hold a public meeting concerning the community improvement plan. Housing is what we're starting with, and this is, I will now ask the clerk to advise the method by which notice of this meeting was given.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council, notice of this public meeting was published in the Trentonian and Community Press on November 13th and 20th, 2025. Further notice was provided and posted on the city's website commencing November 13th, 2025.
Okay, and are there any persons present who would like to make any presentation regarding this subject matter? And I have Mr. Jonathan Hack, Director, Sierra Planning and Management, will provide a PowerPoint presentation to the mayor and council at this time. So, okay, I'm going to ask you to go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public. So I will give a quick overview. As you correctly point out, this is a statutory requirement under the Planning Act to hold a public meeting for any input that the public wishes to provide as it relates to a draft community improvement plan that we've already drafted. We have circulated it to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, which is, as a commenting agency, that's part of the process. But what we have here, what I want to do is go through the particulars of it, and then obviously be happy to field any questions, and if there are any representations, council can hear them. So there we go. So the housing-related CIPs, it can get a little complicated, and so let me just sort of put out what we're trying to do here, which is part of a bigger picture. And so just to give this some context, the Community Improvement Plan, which is, again, to remind everybody in case anyone is not aware, it is a mechanism which under the Planning Act you can bypass the anti-bonusing requirements of the Municipal Act. So in other words, you can provide grants and incentives to property owners for certain actions. And you have a commercial and tourism CIP in progress, you have an industrial CIP currently in progress, and we're actually speaking about an update to that in the next segment of the public meeting. And this is focused on housing, but it's part of a broader housing strategy which you as council know has been developed over the past year or two, and so the planning department and the housing action coordinator is working with that. So this will fit into that broader range of policies that the municipality is undertaking, and that's important because undertaking community improvement plans, if they're isolated in terms of policy, and they don't have the supports of other policies that you have in place, then they're pretty much doomed to failure. But if everyone is swimming in the same direction policy-wise, these things can be quite effective. The other sort of thing, just as an entry point to this, I just wanted to identify is that we're really talking about, and if you look at the government's approach with its Housing Accelerator Fund and other actions over the last few years, the goal is obviously to get affordable housing, meaning that which can be homes, whether it be ownership or rental, that can be afforded by the majority of people, and particularly groups that are the least able to have, housing security. And so that is a focus, but it is important to recognize that housing supply generally is under the cosh and is subject to constraints. So the extent to which the CIP can achieve housing growth generally, that is a platform of this plan. But we are focusing primarily on where there is a dearth of activity, which is in rental housing, and then within that, affordable rental housing as well. So the CIP supports a range of rental typologies: affordable, missing middle, market. You can choose your particular characterization, but it runs the gamut of from market rental down to affordable rental housing as well. And obviously, it's open to any provider of housing, whether it be a private provider or non-profit. So, like all of these processes, the plan itself should be grounded on a certain level of consultation and strength that comes from understanding the issues. So, working with the city's offices that deal with housing and planning, as well as others, we've in finance, in particular, we've developed a pretty strong understanding of the issues. Stakeholder engagement that we had earlier in the summer, we moved to then draft the CIP, and then finally what you have here is a final draft CIP. So it remains draft until such time as council chooses to approve it. So in order to have any kind of community improvement plan, you have to have a community improvement policy area, or project area, I should say. And so for purposes of this plan, it is obviously the entire municipality of the city of Quinte West. So obviously there's a focus on the urban areas. You're not going to be building large blocks of housing in the rural areas, but to the extent there are projects that do come up in the hamlets and elsewhere, we want to be able to support it, and so it's important to have the project area defined this way. So I'm going to go straight into the programs because they'll need a little bit of a discussion to them, and I apologize, it's going to be easier for everyone's understanding, particularly any members of the public that want to provide their input, want to give a sense of exactly what these programs are. So the first one is essentially providing a tax grant as a result of the development of the housing itself, back to the original developer of the housing. So it's called a tax increment equivalent grant. It's specific to the municipal portion of the taxes that people pay. It doesn't include the education portion. And under the description there, it's to leverage the increased property tax assessment. It helps reduce financial costs of property development. The applicable area is any service lands within designated urban settlement areas that are zoned to allow residential use. So what does the grant entail? It entails a grant of up to 75% or a dollar limit of eligible costs. That's just technical speak. What that really means is it's the vertical cost of construction of the housing. You're never going to get to the point where you're providing people with a grant equivalent to what it costs to build, but you can provide up to 75% of the municipal increment of tax gain from pre-development to post-development. So that's what that means. The maximum assistance, up to 100% of the municipal tax increment, is reached where if at least 20% of the rental units are classified as affordable. Our particular approach is, and I will check the details of this, but it means that it's not only the affordable housing, but the project as a whole. If you can get 20%, then you can move up to have because this is a rental market housing project, you can get up to 100% of the municipal grant. It is identified for a maximum period of 10 years. And so it's a very sizable grant. So this program, and I should just indicate why we've gone for, which is a fairly rich program, and it's because the municipality, the city of Quinte West, does not have access to the Housing Accelerator Fund grants that the previous Liberal government had put in place. We don't know what's going to happen in the future with new grants, but if you look around, you'll see various cities have access to substantial funds, millions of dollars. Because we don't, if we're going to be true to the goal of trying to kickstart rental housing, we think that this level of funding is going to be most important. So that's what we've done. And obviously it's targeted to medium and high density purpose-built rental housing. So this is not something you can get if you're a for-profit ownership housing developer. The development charge grant, a little bit of a discussion just needs to be had about that, because it's important to recognize that the province has made a number of changes to development charges over recent years, which essentially moved to either reduce or exempt certain forms of rental housing and affordable rental housing. And I won't get into the details of it, but as I go through here, I'll just give you an indication of how it works. So as it relates to purpose-built rental housing, as opposed to affordable rental housing, affordable rental housing is exempt from development charges, so it wouldn't apply. Rental housing is subject to certain reductions in development charges, but there is still a development charge to be paid. The purpose of this grant is to sit on top of those existing exemptions that legislation provides. So it's assistance for development of purpose-built rental. It is obviously focused on designated settlement areas that allow for residential development, and the grant is equivalent to a maximum of 25% of the development charges levied by the city. But I think the most important fact is the cap. It can only reach $100,000, whichever is less for any project. So the goal here, just so you know, if you're developing market rental housing under Bill 23, I think it is, there's a 15% reduction in development charges levied if it's a one-bedroom apartment, a 20% reduction in development charges for a two-bedroom apartment, and then for three-bedroom apartments, a 25% reduction in the development charge. What we've got on the screen here for a grant is over and above those exemptions, just to be clear. So you get the exemption per legislation, then you get this grant that the city would provide. I did tell you it was complicated, but I'm certainly happy to answer any other questions as we go through it. The accessory residential unit grant. The city has been quite successful in seeing, again, another legislated provision, which is the promotion of accessory residential units. Now, what those are, just, I mean, I'm sure everyone has a working understanding of it, but just for everyone's benefit, it means the ability to build another unit or two within an existing residential property. Almost by definition, those have to be rental units, and the ownership and the unit itself has to be one which is essentially owner occupation. Otherwise, it's just rental, and that's not the primary residence, and that's not the focus of the plan. What we want are opportunities for owner occupiers, effectively, to be able to then develop additional units within their property, and it's allowed for under zoning. Council, in fact, passed the required zoning changes last year to enable that, I think, or earlier this year. The grant is up to funding for up to 3 accessory residential units, up to a total of 15,000 possible. For 1 unit, a grant of 3,000. For 2 units, a grant of 4,000, and for 3 units, going up to 5,000 per unit. So the more you build, the better the grant. And again, that is on top of any provisions that exist within Bill 23, which already exempts some level of development of accessory residential units from a development charge.
Mr. Mayor, sorry to interrupt, but can we ask questions along the way at all? Because I don't want to lose, is that okay? Because I don't want to lose sight of this one and another one.
Go ahead.
Okay. And with regard to accessory residential unit grant, it says applicable area, service lands only? So that means if someone has a home or a secondary unit in the rural areas, they wouldn't be applicable for this?
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. That's a great question. I'd be pretty sure, we'll go away and check that, but I'm pretty sure that's general language here, meaning you really need to be zoned residential. So to the extent that a area in the rural areas allows for residential, then the provisions of the zoning bylaw and provincial legislation would allow these accessory units to be put in place.
I appreciate that clarification because there are lots of homes, and I know we need more, that are have a well and would be more than able to meet the rest of this in the rural area, but they're not service lands.
Well,
but they're residential zones.
As you know, the building code and,
Right.
and zoning can get very complicated.
Sure.
So I'm not going to say with definitive,
Okay.
but I think that's general language, which means
Okay.
if you're allowed residential, then this will
Thank
work.
you.
Councilor
Thank you,
McHugh
Mr.
has a
Mayor.
question, then Councilor O'Neill.
Yeah, thank you. Going back a slide or two,
Yeah.
please tell me how you determine affordable rental?
There are 2 definitions, and I could pull up the particulars of them, but there's one definition which is created by the province, which links to a ratio of the average income in a local community, and that's actually resulted in quite a low bar, or high bar if you want to look at it this way, for affordable. In other words, what is considered affordable is very low in terms of its price, if it's an ownership housing or rent. There's another definition which is sponsored by Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, which essentially says it's anything that's around 80% of market value for either ownership or for rental. And that's the one which, unfortunately, the province of Ontario doesn't use. So when we talk about these development charge exemptions, we're talking about a measure of affordability for housing, which is a lower price. We think, what we're trying to do here is work the gradient of housing, to focus only on, if we were to do all these programs, which was strictly on the province's definition of affordability, I think you would struggle to get applications to come before you, because a lot of developers look at it and they would say, given the market that we can achieve for the housing we're going to build, we don't need to develop housing which is priced so lowly. We can pay a development charge, we can still sell the house or rent the unit, and we make more money as a result. So what we've done in the plan, we talked about it a lot, is take the less restrictive definition of affordable housing, which is that of the national National Housing Organization, CMHC.
If I may, a supplementary, when people call me and say we need more affordable housing, they don't care what the building costs to build or what it's being sold for. It's how much money's coming out of their pocket, what percentage of their paycheck towards it. So I guess that maybe that's the third definition of affordable housing. I mean, if I know housing is expensive, so you can build a house for $400,000. I understand developers got to make money on it, get his money back. But if all the family can pay, say, is $1,500 a month, and his payments are $1,800 a month on it, he's not going to build.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that issue of how much people can pay is essentially, it's wrapped up in both definitions, but it's certainly in the province's equation that they've developed for developing, in each municipality, what is, based on average household incomes, what is deemed to be affordable. But as you know, you can be one side of the line and you're unaffordable, and then the other side you're affordable. So we've kind of we have to have it for guidance, but I can say that in terms of the plan that we've developed with planning as well, what we're trying to do is you recognize that the supply of housing generally, and particularly rental housing, is a benefit to generating affordability, right? The less housing you achieve, the more people coming in, the higher the price for any form of housing is. So what we want to do is make sure we try and improve the supply as well. So if we're assisting housing that might not be defined as strictly affordable, but is less than market rent, so be it. It's a good thing to do. That's the approach that we've taken.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter. My question's on Program 1, the property tax incremental grant.
Yeah.
Over 10 years. What if someone decides to build the property and sells it 2 years after? Does that tax increment grant get carried over to the next person?
You've generated a question where I think once the plan is, it's a great question through you, Mr. Mayor. What we've seen is certain municipalities take one view, certain others take another. In other words, as a consultant telling you, it's easy for me to say this, but the concept is the original developer that took the risk should be compensated. So this is an equivalent grant for the tax, okay? So you continue to pay the tax. If the property is sold, as long as the property continues to pay taxes, you should, under the agreement, be able to continue to provide a grant to the original developer. That is sort of that's the basis of it. But a lot of times you'll see agreements where certainly if there is a change of ownership, the agreement should come back to council so that you at least have the opportunity to determine whether or not you think there's any reason why you shouldn't continue the assistance. So we've seen that in a few places. We've also seen municipalities get a little bit hung up on the idea that because you are taking taxes which are essentially wrapped up in a person's rent in a unit, that person should have full knowledge that their taxes are being used to give back to the original owner. It's really an accounting issue. Those units generate taxes. What you're really doing is you're putting an equivalent amount into a community improvement plan reserve. Now, you can fund that reserve today if you want, even though you don't have any applications, or you can simply expend it when you have an application that you approve and it gets built and the tax is generated. So, long way of answering your question is a good one, and I think what council will want to have a look at is when it comes time to put in place the legal agreement that goes with this program, CAO, members of staff will want to have a good look at it. You'll be working with legal counsel to get it done. There are lots and lots of examples around the province, and I think you would probably want to have a report to you to be able to address that question of whether or not there's any reason why you would stop the assistance if the property were sold. There may be some conditions under which you would say it has to be stopped. So just we're on the accessory unit program. I've kind of done that, so let me just move on to the next one, which is municipal fees grant. This one is straightforward. The idea that a maximum of $5,000 per property can be done for any planning application fees. So, for example, under the ARUs, accessory residential units, you wouldn't, in theory, need any additional planning application to be provided. But you never know. There might be something that generates a need for some applications, so it can be applied generally to rental or to affordable and to accessory residential units. And then similarly, the building permits, everything that you develop is going to generate building permits. So that grant, a maximum of $15,000, I think would be quite welcome, particularly to owners of accessory rental units that have to pay that charge. Lastly, I want to sort of emphasize the significance of having surplus municipal lands. And I know you have currently one project where the municipality has been working with a developer to provide rental and affordable rental housing using land which was in municipal ownership. So this is just a recognition of the importance of that. The idea that for the right project, you can obviously provide lands below market value. And I think that is a significant level of support that you can give for the right kind of projects. So we just want that to continue. In terms of stacking, we're very supportive. This plan is very supportive of stacking grants. So if you can get national grants, if you can get provincial grants, and then you can get grants from the municipality based on your review of those applications, I think that's a good thing. We shouldn't be trying to restrict access to the grants. There is obviously a budget that's got to be spent and has to be spent carefully, but the concept of supporting those projects that are able to find funding from elsewhere is a good thing. And then lastly, just to indicate, if we think, just from a fiscal management point of view, if providing a tax increment equivalent grant, I don't think you need to provide a development charges grant, and vice versa. So one is an upfront funding, which is development charges grant, and one is back-ended, which is the tax increment grant. The accessory residential unit grant can be combined with fees grants. I just spoke about that. So that's the way these programs can sit next to one another in terms of access to each program for a given application. Semi-annual intake, application intake, that's what we're going to start with. I think we will quite quickly be able to determine whether it needs to be a first-come, first-served approach or a semi-annual application intake, meaning one in the spring, one in the fall. But I think this is a good way to start, at least for year one, and see how it proceeds. And a certain delegated authority, I think, is appropriate here for municipal fees and for accessory residential units grants. That's the presentation. Thank you very much for your patience on that.
Well, you won the lottery. Thank you very much for all the information. Yeah.
Second part here.
Pardon?
Second part, industrial lands.
Yeah, we got to go on, yeah. Okay, well, okay, and are you, okay, so the next part is the industrial. Go ahead.
Okay.
Will,
Three.
pardon?
Yeah, three.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So, come on up, Spencer.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have to finish one.
Good evening, Spencer Hutchison, Connect Quinte. I want to thank the consultant and Brian and his team. This is a very comprehensive report.
Good.
And the stacked programs that he has outlined, I think, are a great step forward to make affordable housing happen in Quinte West. I do want to point out it's for all of Quinte West, not one project. There's multiple projects, so I'm not speaking for one project in general.
Yes, go ahead.
This brings on. And I think, much like you heard on the health issue, it's a function of what do we see our community? What do we support and make Trenton the vibrant community we want for ourselves and our future generations?
You already moved.
Hmm?
You just moved. You're talking about Quinte West or Trenton?
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry, I got confused there. But basically, we want to support our hospitals, trails, arenas, everything. And I think this is a great project and needs to be supported by this municipality, by this council, to endorse this plan so that we have people in housing that they can afford. And there is numbers put in agreements for 25 years that this will be affordable housing. And the other point is, you talked earlier in the opening comments about, this time of year and helping out our friends, neighbors, and colleagues. This is one step to help people out who need housing, and it's not really happening under the commercial system. So basically, I just want to support this program. Hopefully, you'll take it on board, because otherwise it gets tricky. And I can tell you, when you're looking at 28 million for 84 apartments, every piece adds up to get it affordable. So, thank you very much.
Listen, I don't disagree with you at all, yes, and and of course, the landlord, whoever invests the money, has got to realize, yes, there are some incentives and there are ways that you can do it to make things affordable.
Yes, and it applies to anyone who has a project. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Come on up, yep.
Hi, thank you. My name's Robert Warm, Shooter Street in Trenton Ward. Many of you will recognize me. I started coming to council meetings, committee meetings about 3 years ago to be a positive voice for housing, and I recognize that this is a part of a larger plan that the city has put in place, some great initiatives, and this is a piece of that. So I definitely want to say that this is a great part of that. I will kind of sort of focus on the ADUs, the accessory dwelling units, or I think it's accessory residential units in the plan. So I think this is a great option for people who might be considering this, and giving them the incentive to make that decision to go ahead and do so. I do want to ask a question about some of or maybe some points to consider for you as you finalize the plan. I think there's a 25-year requirement. I think maybe the presenter talked about some flexibility in that as in the final plan, but I think right now that there's a 25-year requirement as far as like maintaining that affordability. And I wonder if that maybe is too onerous for someone who is building a unit in their house. And that commitment that they have to make in order to avoid having those grants clawed back even 18, 19 years down the road if they need to make a decision to sell or to do something to accommodate their family, and that they can no longer provide that affordable unit. And then I do want to bring up something that isn't explicitly, a couple of things that aren't explicitly mentioned in the presentation. One of them is the issue around parking minimums. So I know that that's something that's going to come up with the council at some point, that staff will bring that recommendation to change the parking requirements, and that is on-site, off-site street parking. One of the things that you will see if this is successful is that there will be a lot of difficulty in providing those units if those parking requirements are not either eliminated or significantly reduced. Theoretically, say that I own a home in Trenton Ward, close to downtown, walkable. I could provide potentially 2 units in my house, but I don't have the space for parking. Does the city still support that? And do council and committees continue to support that if, for instance, I have tenants that park on the street, and other residents complain about it? So if other residents complain about it, is there a potential that council and committees pass a bylaw to restrict parking on that street? If I'm an owner right now and I'm making that decision to build those accessory units with those reduced parkings, do I now believe that the city will support me if that becomes an issue? I don't know if I do at this point. So I think that's something to consider in the future as far as what comes out of this. The other thing to consider is the review on permit fees that's also coming up in the next month. So how does that potentially claw back any of those grants that are going to come out of this program? So the more upfront costs you have, the more risk a small developer is taking on. So this ARU program is targeted primarily at small developers, homeowners that are living in the unit. So the more cost they have up front, the more of a challenge they have in taking on this risk. Certainly the grants and the other tax incentives provide a great later on benefit, but if the costs increase at the front, that creates a challenge for small developers. Thank you.
Thanks. If I can, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of
Yes, go ahead.
questions, just corrections, which I think are helpful. So under an ADU, ARU, yeah, it's either term is of course fine. There would not be a requirement for a 25-year commitment to affordability for someone putting a basement apartment in or accessory residential. If it is an affordable rental project and it's going to be DC exempt, then yes, it has to be defined as affordable. And that means over, I think it's 20 years or could be 25, but that is a period that it has to be locked in as by agreement and enforceable that it maintains affordability. And similarly, if we were to have like the tax increment grant and there was an affordable piece of that, that would certainly be locked into agreement that needs to be maintained as affordable over a long period of time. But ARUs, I think it's all about getting supply. And as long as it's rental, we have to recognize that someone putting an ARU in their property, they're not necessarily looking to then be uber charitable and provide it on the most affordable basis. It's about renting a unit. And so we need to, I think, recognize that as well. And there was something else that you had mentioned, which I think was a good observation. On the grants and parking in particular, I think that's an issue. I can't speak to the solutions for it, but I can say that this is exactly what we had said at the outset of the presentation, which is the CIP can't operate as an island by itself. You've got to have policies which are going to support it. So if you did have policies in support of incentivizing, and then you make it difficult through other measures such as what are perceived to be onerous parking requirements, then that needs to be resolved. Otherwise, you're working against yourself in that respect.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to suggest we take a 10-minute break. It's now, I'm now 5:54, so at 6:04 we'll be back. So let's take a 10-minute break. Thank you.
Thanks.
Don't make it do it anyway.
If there's no further comment on the first public meeting, council will give further consideration to this item at the December 17th meeting, and the bylaw will also be presented at that meeting. So if there's no further comment from the public, this meeting is closed.
Thank you very much. Okay, then you can go on to the next part, which is the industrial lands. Okay, thank you.
Open the meeting, or is that?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just through you, before presenter begins, I'm just obligated to advise when public notice of this meeting was provided.
Go ahead.
And
All right, go ahead.
It was provided in the Trentonian and Community Press on November 13th and November 20th. It was also provided on the city's website on and through November 13th, 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This one's a little easier. Council had, the purpose of this plan is to update the existing 2019 industrial CIP that was developed. It was a pretty strong document. Unfortunately, there weren't any applications for it, and that's the first thing to observe about an employment land or an industrial CIP is you're not going to get lots of applications. And so it's a first come, first served approach. It's designed to be there ready for when someone who's willing to take the risk and be entrepreneurial and provide investment comes knocking, and to support the plan. So what we've tried to do is to, it aligns with all the official plans, etc. What we're trying to do is to make sure that we are as open for business as possible through this CIP, but there are limitations to it. The second sort of principle to identify, aside from it being one where it's there to help new businesses and existing businesses, is that it can be very expensive. You'll see the per applications here can be quite large, and so we have to be very surgical. It is not designed to replace or offset the development charges for industrial lands that you've just put in place. So as you may know, prior to that development charge being put in place, the city was effectively paying for those development charge exemptions and having to fund the reserve to do it. So there's a commitment to funding which you can apply to this industrial plan, but it does not mean, I think, that the idea is that you do it in equal measure. The idea was not to put in DCs and then give them back through being overly generous in the plan. So you'll see that what we've tried to do here is really try and get the balance right and make sure that council is not inundated with applications that are going to be very difficult. So the one other way to do it, and the map is what's important here, is there are different forms of industrial land in the municipality. We're focusing for purposes of this plan on two, general industrial and light industrial. And so just to give a little bit more, and that really means looking at a number of the industrial parks, which are then defined as focus areas. So whereas you have general industrial and light industrial that exists in a number of areas and is eligible for support for the right program, the focus areas, really the industrial parks and areas immediately surrounding, that's where the focus of attention should be. So to give you an example, the Venture Drive Industrial Park down in Carrying Place, this includes the lands within the industrial park and also contiguous lands in the immediate vicinity, all as light or general manufacturing. There are other categories. There's extractive resources, there is rural industrial, there is service industrial, but those categories, when you look at them, the kinds of uses going in really aren't significant employment uses themselves, which would be different from commercial uses. We don't want this plan to be a commercial development CIP because that is not required. This is focusing on the higher wealth-creating sectors that comprise industrial lands. North Murray Industrial Park, that's included. Through the process of discussion with industry stakeholders, we expanded our areas. So just, you may not be able to see it that clearly, but the focus areas have a red boundary around them. So we're including some of the lands which are not necessarily part of North Murray Industrial Park, but they nevertheless are important employment locations as well. So they were included as part of the focus. And then going forward, the Frankfurt Industrial Park, because it is generally service industrial, is not included. There is some general manufacturing that is included by virtue of its zoning, and there is certain parts of the lands closer to Trenton that are also included as priority areas or focus areas. There aren't that many programs. There are only 3, and by design, we want to be very surgical. So you've got 3 programs, 2 designations, and then on top of that, priority areas or focus areas. So the first one is the tax increment equivalent grant. You know how that works based on the discussion we've had. That is applicable only in the areas with the red boundary around them, which is essentially the industrial parks and immediate areas. The development charge equivalent grant should be DCEG, that's right. It is subject to certain limits, and I'm going to get into, again, because what we want to be very careful about doing here is spending money wisely. And so the third program is the municipal fees and building permit grant, which again is an open for business type program. It's not going to change the economics of a project. So the first program is, I won't belabor this because we've talked about it under the housing one, but just to focus on it, the idea is essentially it's a 5-year tax grant. As you can appreciate, when industrial land is developed, the taxes generated can be really quite significant, and every municipality strives to get proportion of industrial or commercial taxes up and residential down, so you get that balance. That's how communities grow. So 5 years is the limit. If it is taxed as industrial, meaning if MPAC taxes as industrial, then we're saying a 70% tax increment grant for each of those 5 years is warranted. There are circumstances where, despite it being located in an area zoned for, say, general manufacturing, it doesn't actually end up being taxed as industrial. In terms of the tax class that MPAC puts on it, it gets slotted into commercial. It's more than semantics. We obviously, if you've got a large user that's coming into an industrial area, you want to support it. It's jobs, it's investment, it's taxes. If it's not ending up being defined as tax, as industry for tax, you still want to give some level of support. And so we're saying that then is a 50% provision for a tax increment grant. The program is well worked out in that regard. The second one is a development charge equivalent grant. So housing, lots of exemptions that the province has put in place to try and spur housing. They haven't really done it for industry. Industry is still required to pay full development charges and pay at building permit, not at building occupancy. So what we've done here is did 3 things. Firstly, if you're outside of the focus areas, but you are general manufacturing or light manufacturing, there's an opportunity to have a 25% development charges grant levied, but a maximum of $50,000. So the attempt for that particular one is to recognize that good things happen outside of the focus areas as well, outside of the business parks, and we want to try to be able to provide a level of support, but there has to be some restrictions on it because of the scale of funding that would be otherwise required. We do want to focus on the focus areas. Those are the industrial parks, and we're saying the same 25% grant up to a maximum cap of $100,000. And then there is a discretion should the city wish to, in response to new inward investment that might come in, whether it be a major employer that could come to the region, to go up to a maximum of 50% for development charges, which could end up being a very significant amount of funding. There's no cap on that. So this is giving the municipality the discretion to maximize its leverage in terms of things like foreign direct investment that might come into the region. So that one may not get used very often, but it could potentially get used. And the sorts of target industries are really manufacturing and advanced manufacturing, distribution and logistics, construction, research and development, agribusiness. Well, I think that provision there gives the Economic Development Department of the city the opportunity to really be able to market the opportunities. But be under no illusion, the idea is not that particular provision gets used for every circumstance, because it can get very expensive. The third program is fees and building permits. And again, it's you could, if you wanted to be critical, you could say it's tokenism. The approach we take is that it's giving back something which is to demonstrate an open for business attitude. But quite frankly, if a major industrial user can't find their way to pay the planning application fee, I think you'd question whether or not you should be supporting them in any case. So it's not one to fall out over. I think it's fine as written. It comes down to how you want to proceed with budgeting for this program. And, council will obviously make its decisions about budgets going forward. But I think if we had and we were asked for our opinion on this, and so we've provided it, I think a $500,000 grant budget is going to be important. It's quite reasonable for the municipality to say, well, we'll give, several $100,000 in actual money going into a CIP reserve, and then we'll recognize that if the tax increment grant gets used, then that represents obviously lost income for that period of time for the municipality, and that can be considered part of the grant funding. So how you split that grant up is really up to advice that you're provided with. But I think, as you can see, for this plan to work, it can't wither on the vine. You cannot give it zero funding. It has to be funded to be taken seriously by people as well. And you have complete discretion on how. Just one thing I just want to say is that budgeting, operationalization of the programs. I mentioned the one there, which is an open opportunity to court major foreign direct investment. You have the complete discretion as to whether to use any of these programs. So the one thing I want to emphasize for both plans is a community improvement plan is a discretionary exercise. There is no entitlement to funding. There's obviously a very important role that economic development has to play in making sure that entrepreneurs are well served and they have certainty and they know what funding they can get and they know why they can get it. And that's how you grow economies. But just to get down to brass tacks, ultimately all decision-making rests with the municipality on these things. That's it, Mr. Mayor. I'll certainly take any questions, and then if there's any other comments.
Just one comment on these grants, the various ones. The City of Quinte West was not eligible for any federal federal funding for the housing accessibility. So we do have to, as you've indicated a number of times, we would have to do the investment. We'd have to put the money aside from the tax rate, which is incurred by all the residents of the City of Quinte West. So other than the tax incentive equivalent grant, I don't really see the city should be, I don't feel the city should be funding these other opportunities. Yeah. The tax incentive grant, the reason that I would support that one and only that one is because it's actually foregoing revenue that you haven't received yet. So in other words, an industry comes to town and they're going to be paying these big taxes, and instead of that you grant them the, like you say, bonusing, but it's a workaround for the first couple of years. I don't think 5 years, I think that's a bit too much. I know the administrative burden on this and the finance department and everywhere else is, taking a look at this every year and trying to make sure that you're doing the taxes and the applications come in and it's confirmed. And it's the same with the other grants you were talking about earlier, the other CIP program. There's a lot of heavy lifting that has to be done by the township staff or the city staff, and there's a lot of money that needs to be put in by the taxpayers. So the tax incentive programs, I can I feel are justified and can be done, but the other ones, just in my opinion, I don't know any municipalities, or are you aware of any municipalities that didn't receive the funding, the federal funding, that are working with these?
Through you, thanks for the question. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, that's on the housing one. It's a bit different. Just on the industrial one. I mean, I think it's if council's view is that you want to focus on tax increment grants, as long as there's a recognition that there's still this upfront funding that the investors need to make. I think I wouldn't take the DC one off the table, because there are certain circumstances where just getting that development to happen by showing some willingness to defray some of the development charges costs, I think it's important. So put it this way, if council for a budget year said, you know what, we don't want to operate this one this year, you can turn it off like a light switch and you can bring it back the next year, for example, if you wish to. So I wouldn't stand on the principle of no to DCs, yes to tax increment grants. But assuming that you did, I think a minimum 5 years for this tax grant. You can always specify the amount that you want to provide, because if you read the plans, and we're really clear about this if anyone asks, is these are maximums. So if for whatever reason, there was $100,000 in grant assistance that you could end up providing based on an application, but you determined that it's just too rich, we want to do $75,000. As long as there's certainty given to the developer, then you within your ability and rights to be able to do that. Those numbers are maximums. That 5 year is a maximum. But I think 2 years is when you consider you have the legal agreements you need to put in place and do that, I think you probably need to go further than that.
And just further on that, so the development charges, though, in particular, if you're saying, that we would give a grant against the development charges, why wouldn't we just go straight to the development charges and do it across for everybody instead of having an application program? I just think that this, like I said, it's in reducing development charges are growth pays for growth.
Yeah.
If you are going to fund that from a tax perspective, those taxes are, that's not growth paying for growth. That's the current residents, the current taxpayers paying for that. So that's why I say I would support the TIG, but the other programs I can't support. Certainly. Because our residents have got taxes that are high enough in this city, and for them to have to put more money into a pot, unless there's going to be some, specific benefit, like if it was tied to jobs or something and that was in an agreement, then perhaps I could support that. Okay,
thank you. Just through you, Mr. Mayor, just to indicate, I completely agree with that approach. Growth must pay for growth. The reason we do a CIP for the development charge grant and not an across-the-board exemption for industrial is you already had that, right? And the Development Charges Act, it's very boxy. It's either an exemption of a class of development or it's not. The ability with the CIP is to be much more surgical and say, for this application, based on certain criteria, this is what we're willing to support. So you see us talk about target industries, general manufacturing, not service industrial, for example. And so I think, I don't disagree with you. What I'm saying is, given that if you look around the province for these plans, they all have a development charge grant or a development charge deferral interest grant. We might want to keep it on the books even if you don't fund it. That's right, because otherwise we would have to come back to you to put it back on the books and go through another public meeting in 2 years' time if you thought it was worth receiving. So the idea that taxpayers shouldn't be bearing the brunt of it, there's certainly no disagreement from a consultant on this, it's just it doesn't mean you necessarily have to remove it from the plan itself. You just don't have to fund it.
Any interest at all in any of the, I guess you'd say, development in the city? I know there's one from Glen Miller Paper Mill, but I don't know whether it got to you or not.
Through you to the mayor, yes, so we will be bringing a CIP application forward for significant industry that's here now that's done a significant expansion. And so that will show sort of what that increment of that, of the tax, the TIG will be on that. So it'll be a good example to show sort of the impact from the TIG and what it would look like. So
Okay.
I don't have any specifically to speak to at this moment, but
Okay.
the
Well, that's
program is
fine.
valuable.
That's fine. We'll look at each one as they come, if they do. Thank you very much. Any public questions now? Any other council members? Anything? Yeah, consultant, come on up.
Hi, my name is Jeff Morehouse. I'm a resident and also business owner in Quinte West. I have a little presentation I put together for this. I was involved in both stakeholder meetings regarding this and wanted to bring this. So between John, the consulting, and Linda and the team, the stakeholder meetings, there's definitely some feedback that was accepted and it was welcome to see. But I wanted to bring one more piece in this one. And so my main concern with this program as president is not doing enough to operate to attract the benefit of the businesses in the area. We need to encourage businesses to come to the area that have other competing municipalities they can move to, and also for local businesses to grow here locally. And I'll cover my point why I've come to that reasoning. So I'm just using a local manufacturing company. It's a 500,000 square foot facility. This past year's tax bill is approximately $1.4 million. Employs over 200 people. When it was built, there is no DC charges. If built today, the charges would be $8.2 million plus that building, plus, of course, applicable building permit fees. Now, future value of looking at it, assuming the tax rise of an average of 2% per year, now, which that'd be lovely if you only ever had to raise taxes maximum 2% per year. So conservatively, 2% per year over the next 50 years, in 2075, their annual tax bill will be $3.8 million. If that actually goes to 3% per year, that actually jumps up to over $6 million. Taxes collected over 50 years at 2% per year increase would be approximately $120 million. So this doesn't include the additional economic benefits the 200 workers create nor the numerous spin-offs. So to address the concern of the benefits to the community, these manufacturing facilities coming to the community bring big money just in property tax alone over the life of the building. So that's the type of business you want in Quinte West. So my issue of the development of industrial lands, it needs to be considered as a long-term investment rather than a short-term cost capture program. What I mean by that is this. So how a typical business would operate. A local business purchases an excavator for $250,000. Hourly rate is $150 an hour. A small percentage of that hourly rent rate is used to pay off your excavator in 5 to 6 years. When you look at the development charges, and if you were to apply that same mentality to a business, the business would buy an excavator of $250,000 with their hourly rate of $150. However, the first customer would be charged $250,000 to cover the cost of the machine, plus then the $150 hourly rate. The DC charge effectively is a purchase of the machine because that was necessary for that building to be built. Your hourly rate is effectively your taxes. Obviously, that business would not be viable because there's nobody who would fall for that. And so that's our challenge with the DC charge, the way they are set up that way. Now, I do understand there's provincial regulations and how the growth in that, but that's just how I'm painting this first. So let's revisit the facility, 500 square foot facility, collecting $1.4 million in property taxes this year, employing over 200 people, and assuming that rate is only 2% per year. If the DC charges were $8.2 million, the current CIP proposal, capping a $100,000 grant, would be $8.2 million. So $8.2 million DC charge, and we're offering a $100,000 grant. Doesn't seem very significant to attract investment at that. So once again, my main concern is the program as presented does not go far enough to attract business, nor will it deviate and cause a business to look at Quinte West over a neighboring municipality for that. So my proposal, increase the CIP program to offer a tangible number that stands out from other municipalities. Significant incentives for both local businesses to expand and businesses to move to the area, and includes not only the funds but also easing. So there's a lot of restrictions, has to be in the focus area, for instance, versus non-focus areas. In many ways, if you have an industry moving into the municipality that you want, doesn't matter where they set up in the municipality, you want that business on it. So the more restrictions you have and more complicated you make, first of all, you make the application process more complicated, but also more work for the staff and more people that are ruled out who might be bringing in beneficial businesses to the area. So keeping it simple is also a key part to this. Now, there's various funding. So I understand if you take the money out, you have to replace the money. You can't run the deficit. And that's one of the problems. There's numerous ways to think outside the box. But one of the ideas I thought of thinking outside the box, if you look at the industrial tax base, if a small percentage is funneled into a reserve specifically for this program each year, industry effectively is sponsoring its own growth this way, and it's accumulating the money. And that can be adjusted annually depending on the usage. But most importantly, industry wants other industry in the area, because the larger the industrial footprint, the more commercial support there is for those industries, the more specialized facilities exist. Good example for myself, most of the specialized facilities that I need, the fabrication shops and that, are located in Belleville. Why? Because that's where the more industry is in Belleville than in Quinte West. And so obviously the commercial sets up closer to their customer. So a more robust industrial complex within Quinte West will help lead to more better commercial support. And it's self-growing business that way. That's one of the ways of doing it. That way industry is funding its own growth. So a result would be a long-term win. So if you look back at this facility that we now have, this 500,000 square foot facility bringing in these tax monies each year. So even on the highest case scenario where you waive the DC charge 100%, the net financial benefit to the city will be conservatively $112 million over the next 50 years. So yes, there is some challenge right now, but the long-term financial gain of these facilities is very rewarding financially. And the best part is there's no risk. Once a facility is built, it's there. A factory is not going to be built and 10 years later somebody sells it and they tear it down. It's going to be there, and it doesn't matter who's using it, who's operating it, the tax revenue will always be there. So it's a guaranteed return on your investment. So in a very competitive market, Quinte West, to be the best and be open for business, a truly aggressive CIP program for industrial development will set us apart for the others. And it'll help put words into actions and stand out among the rest. Thank you.
Is there any questions, Jeff, or you want to take time to answer any questions, just in case we got some? Anyone? No? Oh, Councillor Sharp, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick question, Jeff, Mr. Morehouse, thanks for coming. Related to, you recommended easing of eligibility restrictions. Is there a particular restriction that you're most concerned about?
One is the focus area. So I understand you have the industrial parks you want to focus on. However, there will be businesses pop up. One of the reasons why I mentioned that is I was one of those businesses. When I originally started my company, I didn't meet the eligibility requirement in the industrial park. So I ended up taking land that had a development hold on it. I went through all the efforts, the heritage studies, the environmental studies, all that on my own to turn that into 32 acres of general industrial land to make this work. Now, right now with this new CIP and my input, part of my property actually would be included in this. But moving forward, if somebody else, an entrepreneur, came along and did the same thing, they would not be eligible because they're outside of that focus area. So that's one of the things. I understand you want to focus it to a certain area, but at the same time, if you have a desirable company that's outside of that focus area, why should they have reduced financial incentives just because they aren't exactly where you would like them at the time of that official plan being published?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship. Appreciate the presentation, Jeff. I think that you made some fair points. I think that what I like about the industrial CIP and the housing CIP is, as I understand it, both of the programs are living documents, can be tailored, tweaked year to year by next council, the one after that. I think that that's really important because market conditions change, housing, industrial, commercial. I think having a dynamic program that we can adjust what you're talking about, some of these ratios, some of these percentages, I think is really important. it's, I think, a balance that we have to strike, as with anything, as I'm sure you're aware, similar to the housing one, right? We want to maximize the impact of the few dollars that we have. And so it's, it's a struggle, like putting a small amount of industrial tax revenue aside. I mean, is that going to move the needle? It'll probably need to be a moderate amount, which of course would require individual property taxes to go up significantly to fill that gap. I think one of the things to remember too is that, I think that it's been identified, not having the development charges from industrial support the growth projects of the city. I think in hindsight that, that probably put us behind the 8 ball a bit. And I think that looking at long-range financial forecasts, that I think having that revenue to support the growth projects that are required in Quinte West over the next, 20 and 30 years, I think that revenue is needed. Point being taken that, that can be a huge stumbling block for some businesses, some entrepreneurs. So, finding ways to ameliorate that. But I think that it is important what you're saying to pay attention to the process. And I think that if we're seeing, our staff are seeing, some of these businesses looking to invest come through, and maybe they're looking at us and a few other neighboring, and they're not settling on Quinte West, I think that information to come back and kind of take that in stride, and, certainly open to tweak and play with this to get the results that we want. Because it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if we're too incentivizing and you're kind of throwing money away for investment that was already going to happen for other reasons, and if it's not generous enough, then we're missing that marginal case. So it's a balancing act, and I think it's important to be dynamic going forward with it.
Well, Jeff, how many acres do you have in your location just south of Frankfurt?
I'll be 32 acres, yes.
Pardon?
32 acres.
33 acres. Do you need all of that?
I will eventually, yes. If my business plan goes as.
So you're working towards the capacity
Yes.
of your
Yes,
investment?
yes, I've set up for future growth. Yeah.
And you're working towards that investment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us how things are going? I mean, you started something that, maybe somebody smelled and didn't like the smell of and so on, but,
No, it's going well. I mean, I've flown fast through. I'm year 5 now. I surpassed my year 5 financial projections in year 2.
Oh, good.
So I can't complain about that. I'm expanding. I'm now shipping product all over the province, into the States and Quebec as well. So it's, I can't complain. I've now 4 full-time employees. So yes, growth has been very good for me on this one. So that's.
so you're bagging.
Yes, we manufacture the mulch and we bag it there as well. And also our agriculture, our worm casting division is growing quite significantly as well, so.
Good.
Yeah.
And you're bagging and putting on pallets and loading trucks on pallets and?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I've been by, but I haven't stopped, have I? But that's good news. Glad that it's working the way you anticipated, or even better than you anticipated. That's great, because, yeah, we know, I think you and I agreed from the very beginning that you had a good product and people are interested in it, that's for sure. So.
You have a quality product and excellent customer service, you generally do well in business.
Yeah.
That's the 2 keys. Yeah, excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate that, okay. All right. Anything else you want to go?
No, I would just thank Jeff for taking the time to, and others to come to the meetings that we had. So the plan that you see is in part a reflection of those discussions that we had. I would just say on the focus areas, I think there's a value to them because we're trying to focus the assistance so you can use it to maximum effect. If you don't have those, you're probably going to thin out the amount of support that you can provide. But I can't argue with the point that if a new developer comes to town and is not in one of these priority areas, one of the industrial parks, but is otherwise on industrial land and is a great product, you want to be able to assist. So the one thing that I might offer is if you look at the details under the development charge grant, city discretion to extend the DCEG to include a maximum of 50% for eligible properties. that are within the focus areas, you could represent target industrial sectors. So looking at that sort of foreign direct investment or major inward investment, under that clause, and I can work it through with members of staff, under that clause, you could probably remove focus areas from there. That would be appropriate to do that. Okay. Just to, seek to take on board some of these comments that we see.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. That's great. Okay. All right. No one else? No one else have any questions? And council will give further consideration to the item at the December 17th, 2025 regular council meeting, when a bylaw will be presented, and the public meeting regarding this matter is now closed. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. We're now at public input. Anybody for public input? Come on up. Please, anyone? Come on up, state your name and tell us. Yes.
Stephen and Amy Anthony.
Okay, go ahead.
We're here to get the
Results for the chicken.
Yeah, to find out what yous have decided, whether we can have an extension or an exemption for our hens at our address on Montrose Road.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, that's the next item on the agenda.
Yes, okay. Okay. All right, so we're just going to deal with it shortly, okay? So,
Okay.
do you have any other inputs you want to provide that we don't have?
No.
No? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Okay, the next is, we're looking at the backyard hen bylaw exemption request. 510 Montrose Road, and, okay, do you want to, no, you can sit down. We're just doing it here.
I'd like to put a motion on the floor.
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that the staff report be received and that council approve the request for an exemption to bylaw 11-138. And that would allow that these two hens would that they could have the two hens on their property.
Moved by Councilor Settle, seconded by Councilor Reed, or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Anyone? Go ahead, Councilor McHugh.
I just get a clarification. You're talking about the two hens in existence. They're not to be replaced or added to as time goes on?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that would be what I would like to see. The exemption is just for the two existing, that there would be no additional hens that would be added to the property. And if anything happened to those hens, that would be the end of the exemption.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just seeking clarification from council, Councilor Settle on the motion. It would be an exemption just from the lot size requirement of the bylaw and not an exemption from obtaining a hen coop license. Is that correct?
Gotta be, because the lot's undersized.
Yes.
Yeah, but they would still have to obtain a hen, like we would issue it with the understanding that they're exempt from that the lot size requirement, but they would still need to obtain a license. It just allows us to enforce some of the other provisions, go and check and make sure that everything's clean and all of the other requirements that.
Yeah, yes, we can have the motion as that, if the seconder approves.
Okay. Yes. Anything else, Mr. Clerk?
That's it for me, thank you.
Oh, okay. Any questions from anybody? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Do you want to tell us, are they the same hens you started with? They can't be.
They are, yes.
They are? So you're obviously, they're not laying any eggs?
Not right now, sir.
Okay, okay.
I do have a doctor's letter stating that are my emotional service.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So, that's, okay, anything else? I guess I'm on over to the next one. This is a resolution that staff report 2025-00177 by Virginia Latour, Manager of Legislative Services, Deputy Clerk, regarding Highway 401 Planning Study, Mount Evergreen Cemetery, be receives this information. and that council acknowledge that the Ministry of Transportation in undertaking a planning, preliminary design, and class environmental assessment study on Highway 401 for the replacement and rehabilitation of bridge and culverts, interchange modifications, and identifying the future Highway 401 footprint for an interim 6 lanes and ultimate 8 lanes from 0.4 kilometers west of Christiani Road to 1 kilometer west of Wallbridge Loyalist Road, approximately 20 kilometers in the city of Quinte West, as per the correspondence received from the ministry. Well, Councillor McHugh, moved.
Yeah, I'll move and receive as information. I'm assuming
Okay,
nothing we
thank
can
you.
do about it one way or the other anyhow, right?
That's right.
Okay, so I'll move received.
Okay. Do I need a seconder? Councillor Allier seconds. Okay. Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Reed.
I presume from the diagram that that's not going to affect any grave sites, because we're into another big issue there. I'm not familiar with the cemetery, but I just wanted clarification that that was not going to interfere with any of the,
There's a lot of room on the east side of.
That's correct. Yeah, through you to Councillor Reed, not any, certainly not any active grave sites. I mean, it would take us years and years and years to get out that far, so.
Okay,
yeah, certainly
that's-
nothing that's active right now.
that's fine, thank you.
The dead actually
Oh, I don't want them disturbed.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Planning and Development Resolution, Brian Jardine, Director of Planning and Development Services regarding Housing Community Improvement Plan be received and the council approves the Housing and Community Improvement Plan and the Housing Community Improvement Plan area attached as Appendix 1 and refers funding to budget deliberation. Moved by Councillor O'Neill, second by Councillor Armstrong. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry.
Question. So if we approve this, does that mean that we are approving all of the different the variations of applications, but we will have another opportunity to decide which ones we fund? Is that correct?
Yeah, but Director Jardine, go ahead.
Yes, thank you too, Mr. Mayor. Yes, if this is approved, then as presented, we'll bring a bylaw back at next council meeting. But then between now and then, obviously, council are going to deliberate on the funding component. If that's all approved, then at the start of next year, we'll bring back an implementation report. And then at that point, council can decide on which part of the programmes, based on the funding, that they want to fund for 2026.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? Councillor Sharp.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I have a question then, because
Go
I know
ahead.
that's,
Go ahead.
thank you, related to that, because if we recommend it goes to budget deliberations, and we had the public meeting, I would like to know about that question related, are the rural areas included in that opportunity for residential basements and so forth that are not in urbanized areas? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to confirm that yes, for accessory residential units, rural areas would be eligible.
So that service piece would come off?
Yes, we would change that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Card.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Director Jardine, I was just going to reference a conversation just that we had earlier, if you could speak to a little bit. One of the things I'm just thinking about, probably because it's budget time, obviously we have these pressures, thinking long-term about the plan. For me, it's always, the North Star has always kind of been, how can we spend these dollars, limited dollars, most effectively to kind of move these marginal cases. Very difficult to control that, obviously, but similar to the industrial CIP, getting projects that wouldn't necessarily be completed, having the incentive be enough to get them over the finish line. Something that I thought about, though, reading this, and you explained well about the different kind of options that we can choose in funding different ones, and maybe the DC exemption, for instance, maybe that never gets utilized, potentially, council's purview, but I asked you if there was a way or any, tweaks or anything that could be done to minimize the staff and administrative burden and overhead for this program? Because my mind did go to, you know, if we are funding this to try and have as much housing built, affordable, accessible housing built in the community, obviously the more, staff resources that have to be used up with that, or hiring that has to be done to facilitate a complex and Byzantine program, would be better served with a simpler one, just going to the actual. But could you speak to a little bit about that? Because obviously we have a lot more of the housing action plan to work on, but looking out kind of past that, once council, we've completed that initial council adopt with the municipal lands review. Can you talk about a little bit further out what that could look like, or options on those sort of thing?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, that's quite a lot. So obviously, again, with upcoming budget, one of the elements within the planning and development budget will be the continuation of the housing action plan coordinator position for 2026. It's currently funded up until the midpoint of the year, or the contract is until the midpoint of the year. We are definitely coming to a point of deflection, if you like, on the housing action plan. I think one thing, and this goes back to the discussions with the consultant, for those that have been involved in the housing action plan, particularly in the housing working group, you'll see that a lot of the programs that we were in incentives that we were trying to target through that housing action plan have actually been kind of brought into this CIP. So the accessory residential unit incentives and the municipal land component. So I think as we move down this road of how the city reacts to the housing need within the community, the CIP is a significant part of that, and we can funnel a lot of our energy. We now have a tool. It's a legislative tool. It's understood, and it gives us that ability to apply incentives when council approve the budget. But what I mean by a point of deflection is that after that point, the question is going to come up with council over this next year as to where do we go next with this housing path, because we've pretty much covered most of the incentives within the housing action plan, and that's a question we'll be bringing to the working group and to council. Lots of ideas at the staff level in terms of further advocacy, really focusing on funding, because the other thing that the CIP does is that irrespective of how much council funds in a specific year, it gives us a tool to potentially attract funding, and if we achieve funding from other levels of government, we can essentially fill that bucket, fill that reserve with that funding. So we will be coming back to council. Certainly the expectation from a staffing resource side of things, there will be some administration to set the CIP up and get it running. So immediate need, we do have certainly the need for the resources that we currently have, but it will be a question for council over this next year as to where council wants to go on this housing initiative and the housing action plan in the future, and therefore what resources, particularly staffing resources, we need in the long term to achieve that.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor O'Neill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Director Jardine, is there a second round of the Housing Accelerator Fund, or no?
Through your worship, there was a second round. If you remember, we actually applied twice and unsuccessful twice. No further rounds that I'm aware of at this point in time. Obviously, as you'll all be aware, the new federal government has come out with new programmes. That was just released on the housing side. Canada Builds programme as part of the Canada Build programmes, but particularly related to housing. So we're just going through that information right now. It appears to be a fund directly with the applicants being the builders and developers as opposed to the municipality. So whether or not that will run parallel to the Housing Accelerator Fund or whether it will take over from, we're not quite sure yet, but as these things become clear, we'll report back to the working group and to council.
So supplemental, so it's my understanding Belleville got something like $10 million. That's like 5,000 less people than us, and we got zero. I don't know how that's very fair.
Through your worship, I can't speak to the fairness of it. I think the number you're maybe quoting, if I recall correctly, is maybe a couple of things. I think they were successful. City Belleville, along with many other cities were successful on the Housing Accelerator Fund. But over and above that, if you remember, the first round of the Strong Mayors legislation did come with housing funding based on the municipalities meeting certain housing needs. So I think probably the 10 million might be both of those things put together. As for, one thing that we noted, myself and staff, when we worked on the applications and I shared with the Housing Working Group, is that very similar to housing CIPs, Housing Accelerator Fund applications all looked very similar. There's only so many things that municipalities can do. They all contain the same types of projects, the same type of need. So, really that's my only way of saying we're not sure why one application was unsuccessful than others. It may have been a regional approach, I'm not sure, but certainly if more funding comes up, we would certainly pay attention to it and make application.
CAO Angelo, any comments on what we received lately and how we're back on track in terms of fairness?
Well, I think, Your Worship, if I can suggest, is that we've had meetings with our MPP and MP as late as Friday, and we're advocating for them for this municipality. Is we need to stress with both levels of government the need for funding of projects within our municipality.
We're doing that to the best of our ability, and we do include 8 Wing and all the people there and their housing needs as part of the process. So, and we have met with MP, and today, Caleb, was there any specifics with respect to the dialogue you were involved in? Mr. Denowden, sorry.
Through your worship, yeah, there was an open house here with the provincial government, the Ministry of Finance, and our local MPP, on the provincial budget, and we were given time to provide feedback along with a lot of our colleagues in the area as well.
Thank you. Okay, let's keep going here then. Do I need a vote? All in favor? Okay. All right, all in favor, thank you, carried, okay. All right, then the next one I'm at is the planning resolution, services regarding housing, or did I just do that? You just did that. Okay, the next one then is the resolution, staff report 2025-00155 by Linda Lyle, Manager Development and Tourism, regarding industrial lands community improvement plan be received and approved, and the council approves the industrial community improvement plan and the community improvement plan area attached as appendix 1 and refers funding to budget deliberations. Moved by Councillor McHugh. I need a seconder. Councillor Roseblade. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next one is the staff report by Director Grimman. I'm sorry. Yeah, I read it
Sorry,
backwards.
Mr. Mayor, I have a conflict on this. I'm declared a
Okay,
conflict.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, this staff report by Director Grimman, strategic partnerships regarding Trenton Curling Club annual grant increase request be received. Councillor McHugh seconds. Or moves it. Seconded by Councillor Elliott. Any further comments? I guess that's what I need to know. Any further comments? None at this time. We've heard to budget. Councillor Roseblade? Sorry.
I'll just take the referral, sorry.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay, so I'm at the correspondence. The letter, council receive and file the letter as presented. Need a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Reid moves, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any comments or questions?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Oops, thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we could have a report back about the letter that Bridget Gell has written regarding the use of motorized vehicles on the Lower Trent Trail in the north part of Frankfurt out to Glen Ross.
Okay, second that motion. a motion's on the table. I'm gonna ask the clerk after we'll vote on the motion, then I'll ask you to speak. I know it's backwards, but that's the way we're gonna do it. All in favor of the motion? That's what I need to know. Okay, the motion's carried. All right, Mr. Clerk, do you want to speak on this, please, just for a few
Sure, yes.
seconds?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to council. A bit of background information on this matter. So council does have a bylaw on the books regarding this portion of the trail that does not allow motorized vehicles, just on this particular portion. When we purchased this piece of property from the province, there was a condition in the agreement with them that we not allow particular uses of the property. So we'll have to go back and take a look at that agreement that we have with the property.
With the province.
With the province, thank you, and see whether or not that would be a permitted use for that trail.
Yeah. I remember when we purchased this property from the province, there were certain, I guess you'd say, conditions when we purchased it. And that was that it be non-motorized. So if I'm not trying to inhibit the report. You make the report based on what you see and what information you've got. But I remember specifically that they can take ownership of that trail back from us based on, but anyways, that's where I remember. So we'll go from there. Councillor Reid.
I think through conversation, and I may be wrong with this, but I think there was a certain amount of years that it needed to stay definitely non-motorized, and then it would be up to council perhaps to look at it. So a report coming back to us would clarify all of that so that we could make a clear decision as to this.
Thank you. I don't disagree, but anyways, I've said enough. Okay, all in favor, that's what okay, carried, thank you. And the proclamations, council proclaimed December 1st, 2025 to January 1st, 26 as Mad Quinte Red Ribbon Challenge in the city of Quinte West, and further that the Quinte West sign and the Veterans Skyway Bridge be illuminated in the color red from December 1st to January 1st, pending no scheduling conflicts. Okay, moved by Councillor McHugh, second by Councillor Reid. Any further comments? All in favor? Thank you very much. Carried. You notice I'm left-handed, so I tend not to look left as much as I do. I know, it's just, yes, left-handed people are always right, I guess you'd say, but I do. Anyways, okay. I'll get better with age. Okay, the next one is resolution. Council proclaimed December 3rd, 25 as International Day of Persons with Disabilities in the city of Quinte West, and further the Quinte West sign and the Veterans Skyway Bridge be illuminated in the color purple on December 3rd, pending no scheduling conflicts. Move. Moved by Councillor Sharp, seconded by Councillor Boyce. Look at that, I already just, yeah, I made myself a liar. Any other comments? All in favor? Thank you, carried, okay. All right, so we got printed and non-printed. Moving a seconder for printed and non-printed information, please. That's what I need. Councillor McHugh moves, seconded by Councillor Reid. All right, any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you. And I like that non-printed. Anyways, bylaws, need a move and a seconder for the bylaws, please. Councillor Roseblade moves, second by Councillor Card. Any comments or questions on the bylaws? All in favor? Carried, we read first, second, and third time, and all signed.
No other business.
Any other business? Any new or other business? Anybody? Save it for 26. Okay, no other business, and we'll go to the one we want called confirmation bylaw. Councillor Stedall, and she'll move the adjournment too. I know she will. I need a seconder for Councillor O'Neill will do too. We'll give him double the money that he usually gets. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have have a good Christmas, and,
We got another meeting.
and we got another one?
You don't have to come, though.
Oh, maybe I wasn't planning on coming to the, I have to do Christmas shopping.